I'll never forget the day my world came crashing down around. It was a sweltering summer evening, and I had just received the news that would change everything. My husband of 5 years, John, had been involved in a fatal car accident on his way home from work. I'm still trying to process how such a devastating event could occur in what felt like an instant. The police arrived, and we were surrounded by paramedics and detectives, all of whom seemed to be speaking in hushed tones that only added to my growing sense of unease. As the reality of the situation began to sink in, I couldn't help but think about how this was supposed to be our happily ever after. We had met in college, bonding over our shared love of art and music. After a whirlwind romance, we decided to take the leap and start a life together. John was everything I thought I wanted in a partner: kind, caring, and supportive. He made me laugh when I needed it most, and his smile could light up an entire room. But as I stood there, surrounded by the trappings of our life together, I couldn't shake off the feeling that something wasn't quite right. The detectives seemed more interested in John's personal life than the accident itself, asking questions about his relationships and whereabouts on the day of the crash. It was then that I received a mysterious phone call from an unknown number. He stole my heart with his smile, a distorted voice whispered before hanging up. My mind reeled as I tried to make sense of these cryptic words. The days that followed were a blur of hospital visits, police interrogations, and endless questions about John's final moments on Earth. It was only when the autopsy report arrived that things took a dark and unexpected turn. John had died from an unusual combination of injuries, including a broken ribcage from a punch to the chest. The question on everyone's lips was, who could have inflicted such a violent blow? And then there were those strange phone calls again, with only one word echoing in my ears: look. As I stood amidst the chaos, trying to piece together what had happened to the man I loved, I couldn't help but wonder if there was more to John's story than met the eye. What secrets lay hidden behind his charming smile and easy laugh, and who could have orchestrated such a sinister plan? My world was turned upside down, and I knew that nothing would ever be the same again. The days that followed were a whirlwind of emotions: shock, denial, anger, and eventually despair. The police investigation led to a series of twists and turns, each one leaving me more confused than the last. They spoke of John's friends and acquaintances, but none seemed to be willing to talk about his past or the events leading up to his death. It was as if he had been living a double life, one that I knew nothing about. I began to scour John's belongings, searching for any clues that might shed some light on what really happened. His phone records revealed a string of mysterious calls and texts to an unknown number, the same one that had sent me those chilling messages. The more I dug, the more I realized that John had been leading a secret life, one that was shrouded in deceit and betrayal. As I delved deeper into his past, I discovered a web of lies and half-truths that left me questioning everything I thought I knew about my husband. It seemed that John had been involved in some shady dealings, ones that could have put him in grave danger. But what really caught my attention was the identity of the person who had sent those disturbing messages, someone who claimed to be his greatest admirer. The more I learned, the more I felt like I was living in a nightmare from which I couldn't wake up. John's smile, once so charming and infectious, now seemed sinister and calculated. The memories we had shared together began to feel tainted, as if they were all just a carefully constructed facade designed to keep me in the dark. And then there were the strange occurrences around my house. Objects moved, doors opening by themselves, and an overwhelming sense of being watched. It was as if someone was waiting for me, watching me, and studying me with an intensity that made my skin crawl. I knew then that I had to confront the truth, no matter how painful it might be. The question was, what would I find when I finally faced the truth about John's death? The day I decided to take matters into my own hands was a turning point in my life. I couldn't shake off the feeling that someone was out there, watching me, waiting for me to uncover the truth. I started by digging deeper into John's past, scouring through his email accounts, social media profiles, and old acquaintances. It was then that I stumbled upon a cryptic message on an online forum. He stole my heart with his smile, it read, accompanied by a grainy photograph of two men together. The image sent a shiver down my spine as I recognized the face in the photo. It was one of John's co-workers, someone I had always thought was just another friendly colleague. But now I saw him in a different light. The more I researched, the more I realized that this man, Alex, had been involved with John for several years before they met me. It was as if John had been leading a double life, one that was hidden from me and everyone else around him. As I continued to investigate, I discovered a trail of clues that led me to an underground art collective, a group of artists who created provocative installations that challenged societal norms. At the center of it all was Alex, who seemed to be the mastermind behind the operation. But why had he been sending me those cryptic messages? What did he want from me? The more I learned about Alex and his motivations, the more I realized that John's death wasn't just just a random act of violence, it was part of a larger game, one that involved deceit, manipulation, and obsession. The smile that had once captivated me now seemed like a facade, a mask hiding a sinister truth. And then there were the messages. They kept coming, each one pushing me closer to the edge. I felt like I was trapped in a web of lies with no way out. Every door I opened led to more questions, more secrets, and more pain. But I knew I couldn't give up now. I had to uncover the truth, no matter how painful it might be. The question was, what would I find when I finally confronted Alex? Would he confess to John's murder, or would he silence me forever? As I stood at the crossroads, wondering which path to take, I heard a faint whisper in my ear, "Look again at the man you love." It was then that I realized the true extent of John's deception. He had been playing a role, a carefully constructed persona designed to keep me close. But what did it all mean? And who was behind it all? I took a deep breath and stepped into Alex's world, armed with nothing but my determination to uncover the truth. The underground art collective was hidden away in an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of town, its entrance guarded by a pair of imposing metal gates. As I pushed through the gates, I felt a shiver run down my spine. This was it, the moment of reckoning. Inside, the warehouse was a labyrinth of dark corridors and cramped studios, each one filled with strange and provocative artwork. I navigated through the space, asking questions and seeking answers, until I finally found Alex in his studio. He was surrounded by half-finished projects and scattered papers, his eyes locked on mine with an unnerving intensity. "So, you're the woman who's been searching for the truth," he said, his voice dripping with condescension. "I must admit, I'm impressed. You're more determined than most." Alex smiled, a cold, calculated smile that sent shivers down my spine. "But do you have what it takes to handle the truth?" As we spoke, I realized that Alex was playing a twisted game of cat and mouse with me. He knew everything about John's past, and he was using it against me. But why? What did he want from me? The questions swirled in my mind as I struggled to keep up with Alex's words. And then it hit me, the truth about John's death. Alex had been planning this for years, manipulating events from behind the scenes until John's murder became a reality. But why? What drove him to commit such a heinous crime? As I watched Alex's face, I saw something there that gave me pause, a glimmer of sadness, a hint of pain. It was then that I realized that Alex wasn't just a mastermind, but a man consumed by his own demons. He had lost someone dear to him, someone who had been taken from him far too soon. The revelation shook me to my core. I saw John's death in a new light, not as a random act of violence, but as a tragic accident born of love and loss. And Alex, he was just as broken, just as consumed by his grief. But as the truth sank in, so did the realization that justice wasn't as simple as I had hoped. Alex's world was far more complex, far more twisted than I could have ever imagined. And now I found myself trapped in the very same web of lies and deceit that had ensnared John all those years ago. The smile on Alex's face seemed to grow wider, his eyes glinting with a malevolent light. "Welcome to my world," he said, his voice dripping with malice. "You'll never leave." As I stood there, frozen in horror, Alex began to laugh, a cold, mirthless sound that sent shivers down my spine. He took a step closer to me, his eyes glinting with a malevolent light. "You see, I've been playing a game of cat and mouse with you from the very beginning," he said, his voice dripping with condescension. "You thought you were investigating John's death, but in reality, you were just a pawn in my game. And now, you're going to be my next move." I tried to back away, but Alex was too quick. He reached out and grasped my arm, his grip like a vice. I felt a surge of adrenaline as he pulled me close, his breath hot against my ear. "You're just like John," he whispered, his voice sending chills down my spine. "You're both so blind to the truth, but I'll show you the truth. I'll show you what's really going on." As he spoke, Alex began to pull out photographs and documents from a folder in his pocket. He showed me pictures of John and Alex together, of them laughing and smiling like two happy friends. But then he showed me something else, a photograph of myself, taken when I was just a teenager. "You see, I've been watching you for years," Alex said, his eyes glinting with malice. "I know all about your past, about the secrets you keep hidden, and soon I'll be able to use them against you." I felt a wave of fear wash over me as Alex continued to taunt me. He was right, he knew everything about me, and he would stop at nothing to get what he wanted. But then, something inside me snapped. I remembered the words that John had spoken to me all those years ago. "The truth is like a door. It's always there, but you have to look hard to find it." And I realized that Alex was just trying to keep me trapped in his web of lies. I took a deep breath and looked him straight in the eye. "I'm not going to play your game anymore," I said, my voice firm and steady. "I'm going to uncover the truth, no matter what it takes." Alex's face contorted with rage as he realized that I was finally awake. He knew that I had seen through his facade, and that I would never be fooled again. "You'll never leave this place alive," he snarled, his eyes flashing with anger. But I just smiled. I knew that I had the upper hand now, and with a newfound sense of determination, determination, I turned to face whatever lay ahead, ready to take on Alex and uncover the truth once and for all.